Try putting the microphone in your...
Like on it?
Yeah.
And now. That'd be good.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm trying to think of how to make it sound. I like and now, though. Okay. And now. On this episode of The Hot. You got recording on?
It's recording.
Okay. And now. From the Oven Studios. The Light Oven Studios. The Oven Light Studios. I don't like the way I sound, but I don't know how it's going to sound when I get it ready.
The oven light is on and the studio is hot and ready for our next guests.
Misty Diaz, what is up?
How's it going, Cole? Long time no speak, and then it was silence in here, so
Yeah.
hi, finally get to talk to you.
For anybody the 5 people who listen to my podcast, we don't have headphones today, and it seems a little strange, but we're going to power through. It's almost like a real conversation now, instead of like hearing this blasting noise in your ear.
So I apologize if I begin to psychoanalyze.
That's like the exciting part. That's why you're here.
Okay.
Like, get in gear and roll with the psychoanalyzation.
You've been warned.
Okay, so I want to say that Misty and I are long-time acquaintances. Actually, I don't have it. I've seen a video, and I have memories of us doing a skit. And I don't know what the skit was. I feel like we were kind of like in a canoe, but it was almost like an improv type thing. And what makes us seem like the biggest nerds ever is like, I don't think it was like for anything. I think we were just looking for something to do one day.
Very possible.
I hope that video stays locked and hidden away.
Yes, please.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks for doing this. I enjoy podcasts. I enjoy talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed, so Facebook is a trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we went to school together, but I've not seen you.
Nope.
Not talked to you.
Nope.
But I've kept up with you. I followed,
Yeah.
We were friends.
Yeah, indeed. I followed you too. Like anyone that I was like, yeah, I do remember having memories with that person.
Yeah, it's like there's people that you probably do see that are your Facebook friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's family and such. Then there are those who you know, but you don't say a word to. But man, I went to school with that person. I want to know what they're up to. Then there's just people you have no idea who they are. You just accepted their friend request or something.
Yeah.
Definitely a trip. So I would say I've enjoyed it. I kind of want to start asking you, like, you were in the Navy, right?
For 15 years.
15
That's why you
years.
never saw me.
That's
I kind
it.
of left and never came back.
I feel like, good job. I stayed and never left, right? So 15 years in the Navy, so you basically traveled the world.
Yes, I did a pretty good job at trying to touch as many countries as possible.
Yeah. What have you not touched? Antarctica?
Yes, we do have. There was an opportunity for me to go there, so it really wasn't even that far to reach. It was like, oh, now I'm consciously choosing to not go there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, that was
Swallow
an
that
option.
pill.
Yeah.
So China.
Yeah, through Hong Kong, Singapore. I lived in Japan. That was the first place that I went to.
How long were you lived in Japan?
It was almost 4 years. I was there for.
Did you learn how to speak any languages?
Conversational.
Yeah.
Enough stuff. Yeah. The last place that I lived was in Germany.
Okay.
That was my last active duty station.
Can you give me some German? Or no?
9.
Come on. 9? That's no.
Yes.
Nice. I love it when somebody says no hablo inglés. I'm like,
yes.
No hablo español. I'm like, you just spoke Spanish.
I don't speak English.
You don't speak English. Nice. That's what I said in Spanish.
Yes.
So I started to notice some of your education achievements, and that's what kind of made me want to bring you on and talk to you today. I wish I would have just reached out and said, Hey, how's it going? What are you up to? Just to be your friend. Sorry. It took seeing the the educational achievements
you're
and whatever else.
It's subconscious.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. Part of what I'm doing on the podcast is just trying to teach folks or learn something new. And so, tell me a little bit about your background. So first, I guess you got some type of bachelor's degree. What did you do with, what is that? Where did you get your bachelor's? What kind of bachelor's?
So I did get a bachelor's in psychology while I was active duty.
Psychology.
Is whenever I finished it, because I failed a temp the first time as a civilian before I went to the military.
Okay.
And that didn't stick.
You went to college.
It didn't stick. So I was like, all right, I need to make a decision here quickly.
Yeah.
And so, but throughout the Navy, even though I loved being meteorology and oceanography, I just didn't geek out the way the other people did.
So that's what you did in the Navy.
Yeah. And I was like, this is nice and I like it. I'm good at it. I enjoy it, but not the way these weather geeks do.
Yeah.
Like, I want what they have.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing school.
What they have passion for what they're doing.
Oh, I look at weather forecasts at home and I'm like, gross.
That's super gnarly.
I'm like, I don't like looking at the clouds because I can tell what they're gonna do.
I'm glad you recognized that and like decided you want to have that type of passion for what you do. I'm a big advocate of doing what you love, right?
Yeah.
The whole the phrase "do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life" type thing. It's taken me a long time, really, and I do real estate. The reason I like mentioning it is because I do this podcast for free. It costs me money. So that's my one little advertisement. But I genuinely love selling real estate, love everything there is about houses, investment, buying for your whole life with your family, renting, improvements, you name it. And
I'm glad that you enjoy that because people like me are like, oh,
what?
No. So I'll come to you for all of that.
See, the advertising just worked.
Yeah.
No. So you said your bachelor's was in psychology. Mm-hmm. So I really like psychology. I wish that I had spent more time diving into it. About 3 or 4 years ago, I went back to college and took a freshman psychology class. Mm-hmm. And it was just like mind-blowing. So my first stint in college was like hungover or I don't care. What's the grade you need to pass? I mean, that was my whole approach. Back of the class, it was so funny because after like the second or third day in the psychology class, I'm like first row, asking questions, raising my hand. And since we're on that, what I learned most about it, what I enjoyed most was the psychological term, I guess, confirmation bias.
Okay.
And I think that applies so much to our political world today, how like journalism is so biased. Again, right, left, I don't care. But there's so much bias in everything that we do. And that confirmation bias kind of explains how you go into learning something like psychology or mental health, whatever you're learning, you already have your preconceived notions. And I'm not going to say there's something entirely wrong with that. I mean, we are who we are. But recognizing it, I think, is the important part. So you're getting your doctorate now.
Yes.
So what happened between bachelor's?
I got
and
a master's from University of Oklahoma, OU.
Nice.
And that didn't seem quite enough to get me into the PhD the first time around.
Requirement-wise or passion-wise?
Requirements, education, where I don't know. It wasn't enough. So I was like, I didn't get picked up this time for PhD, so I'll just get another master's. So then I went, applied, and checked out PhD programs and master's programs and kind of fell into Wesleyan, where I found marriage
Texas
and family.
Wesleyan. Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. You're currently in that program. How long have you been doing that now?
Well, including the master's, I've been there for like 4 years now. So this is just the first complete year. Yes.
Okay. I hope I don't get in trouble. By chance, do you know Bianca Meakin?
I don't.
She got a master's, maybe even doctorate in sex therapy.
Yeah.
Is that what the proper
Marriage
term?
and family is our primary thing, but I mean, if she did her dissertation through sex therapy.
Well, I was going to say, is sex therapy the specific title, or is that fall under marriage?
It can fall. It falls under marriage because that's, when you have couples, if you specialize in couples,
sure.
Then, I mean, but there are people like me who I haven't really gone down that avenue yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. You guys can, is it good or is it bad? Good. Okay, we'll move on. And then there's
family
people
and
that
what
want to get
therapy?
into it. Marriage and family.
Marriage and family.
And so it includes couples.
So you're going to tell me how to run my marriage?
I'm going to teach you how to have the happiest marriage with anyone, even your relationship with Axon will improve.
Yeah. Did you see I was yelling at him earlier?
I noted it.
You wrote it down. Don't stop. So let's back up. OU, did you go to campus or were you satellite? Or
Yes, because I was in Germany, and so they do work with military, and so that was what was able to get me any kind of.
Whoa! You did it. Oh, University of Oklahoma in Germany.
They
so
sent
cool.
professors out there for extended periods of time to teach for their classes.
Is that like a GI thing, or they just?
It was specifically for, they have contracts with like the Air Force. Different branches have different contracts with schools.
And so schools taken care of, right?
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
I ran out of that money.
Ran out of that money. Okay, so that was a limit.
Yeah.
A couple of degrees ago. I've got close friends of mine that are still students, and so I mean, that's awesome. Learn. I mean, that's like one of the most cool, especially when GI takes care of it. Mm-hmm. Are you able to work and practice with the masters? Mm-hmm. And are you doing that?
I am. So
wow.
I have my associate license, which means I have a supervisor that I go to.
So I'm pretty familiar with it. One of our guests was a counseling center, Children First. Now, of course, it's mostly children, but they counsel
the
parents, adults. And, because it's a nonprofit, they have, majority of the counselors are, I guess you call associate or getting hours, right? Have you gotten hours? Or are you still, that's what you're doing, working on now? So cool.
Yeah, I'm collecting hours right now. So it takes about 2, maybe 3 years, depending on how fast you work. But I'm a pretty diligent worker. Like I maintain a certain speed.
Yeah.
So 2 would be average.
So I'm gonna get back with that too. Out.
To finish the associate and then be fully licensed to practice alone.
I get you. I'm gonna get back to that. So you went to Texas Wesleyan to get your master's in family and marriage. And then now working on the doctorate.
Yes.
So what does working on a doctorate encompass? I mean, you mentioned you're writing I don't even know what the word is.
My dissertation.
Dissertation.
Yes.
It's far beyond my uncolleged ass. Excuse me. I've got college. I just I don't even know how to begin to write a dissertation. So what's the dissertation over?
So I have narrowed it down to suicidal family or suicidal couple. I'm still debating on if I'm going to continue to stay families or couples.
Yeah. So is this saying that if one of your patients through marriage and family is suicidal, this is a ways a doctor should treat that or approach that? Is that kind of a general approach?
It will be kind of geared at getting the entire, or let's say couple, for instance, if I'm going to do a couple. So it's a couple who has either survived, one of the partners attempting suicide and not completing, or suicide in the family.
I didn't think of it that way.
Or
survival.
Yeah. And then, or if somebody has accomplished, a suicide, then they would have to learn how to relive.
And
start
rebuild
over that relationship and what happens now.
Okay. Very cool. So one, thanks for doing that. I mean, that's like a vital need for folks. I mean, I have friends. It's so funny. Like once a year, I'll see them do like a Instagram post, and it's like 15 years ago today. And my buddy, you know, it's like, whoa, you forget. I see this guy all the time. He's living all the time, every day, with one of his best friends passed away, and unfortunately, that's a little bit more common than it should be.
It's much more common than we acknowledge.
Yeah. So I commend you so much, because you're taking on this, like, in my opinion, such a major issue.
There's such a lack in research and
education,
talking about it. Even just saying the word is still taboo.
Like, suicide.
It's very taboo. And I have a client who's, you know, in their culture, it is taboo and it is looked down upon. So, you know, that adds another layer. With
all due respect to our elders, it's a different time.
Exactly.
Coming up, I mean, there's so many things that our elders did that we're not going to be doing. For example, 20 years before you and I were born, we were segregated, right? Like now it's almost like, what? But I was born in 82. In the 60s, right? Grand Prairie was literally segregated, and that's something we don't do anymore. Now it's pride. Like you're too proud to talk about suicidal thoughts or feelings, right? Like you don't talk about that type of things.
Right.
Well, I think we're getting to a point where hopefully anyway, people are talking a lot more about it thanks to you and your work. We had Matt Foster's a friend of mine came on. He's a Army guy, but they do Warriors Keep. Was it Warriors Keep? And it's a nonprofit. They take veterans out walking, hiking, and he's like, anytime these guys with PTSD get outdoors, they're less likely to take their lives. And of course, the numbers on veteran suicides just are outrageous. And so it was good going down that road, and how some of the simplest things, just simply talking about it.
And don't underestimate the power of just that human connection. As we've realized, it's a necessity.
Whew. You need COVID-19 kiss my butt, man. Jeez.
It's really showing you that, maybe I can't do it all by myself.
I'm a single dude, and so like my home it's just me, and like I'm used to it to a certain extent. And luckily I've got my dad comes in the office, we go to lunch. I've got different people I run into and talk to. So, but I can imagine somebody who doesn't have those things that I have for the past 2 months. I mean, you're just living within your own self. You can go freaking crazy.
Yeah. Whether you're scared to be by yourself or you're not used to it, or whatever that reason is.
Even those who have, like I said, I've learned to live. This is not like, sad, I live by myself. Like, I'm okay with that. You know, actually, if I'm around around people for too long, I want to get back to being by myself.
To isolate again.
Recharge. It's like you're cleansing. Okay, so let's go back then to your, if you don't mind, I don't want to touch on something I can't, but what type of hours, like what are you doing? Because, for example, Children First, they have hours. So are you working for like a therapist who has a practice, or are you working for, So
I work for a private practice, Lifeology Institute. I work at the Oak Lawn in Dallas. So we are private practice, and I kind of see people who find me through Psychology Today or some other kind of referral. And a lot of the times, the ones that do find me come in for something pretty heavy, like a psychosis or mood disorder or suicide.
Are you able to charge fees and such?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
And so there is there's a sliding scale, but we have our set fees that.
And you're just associated with this private practice. So
I have an office, and I get to.
So what is your title? What's the title? Psychologist, therapist?
Well, the license, therapist is licensed marriage and family therapist associate.
Okay.
So with the PhD, though, it would be a counseling, psychologist.
I was going to say you can't diagnose my COVID-19 sickness, but you can diagnose
I can diagnose you with COVID's done to you.
Oh, nice. Very well. We'll have to talk after this. So you're able to work and practice and get hours while you're getting your dissertation, and that's common for students getting the doctorate. Will you go by doctor?
Yes, you betcha.
You betcha. My brother got some type of engineering doctorate. I don't think I'm going to call him doctor. But and then dentists. I think I call most dentists doctor if they're doctor. I'm trying to think at what point does the doctorate not apply? Because everybody's common theme of the term doctor is body. But mental, mental is your body.
Yeah, well, a big difference. Like I could just not go into the medical side of doctor because blood is gross and because I have no memory. Like my brain doesn't work that way. But with psychology, I can write papers forever and write books and write all of this. And then people with the memories who just want to learn it and know it and fix it, they don't care about writing about it.
Yeah.
So
it's a cool approach.
Completely different kind of.
You do have. I'm glad you have that kind of. Hey, this isn't my strength, but I can do the work, and then let somebody else do that. So a dissertation, and this is just almost off subject, but I feel like the explanation is, or let's say a doctorate. You have mastered this field, and then added a piece to it. Is that?
Yeah,
fair? I mean,
it's fair to say because you have to do your own research.
And is that what the dissertation kind of does?
Yes.
So you got this whole field of marriage and family counseling therapy, and then you're going to add your spin on.
You're going to ask one question, and you're going to try to answer that one question.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And you spend 4 years working on that, or 2, 3 years, whatever.
Making a defense against it.
How long do you anticipate working on it and doing that?
We'll wrap up in 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
from now? That seems like a long time.
Not really.
No, it's not.
They give you up to 8 years or so to finish.
Okay.
And you can defer that because it gets difficult, run out of money, family changes. Money.
Oh, because you said family changes. I just thought about you. You're a mother, right? That's awesome.
Yep. And so I'm side job of single mom too.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah.
Good job. Boy, girl?
Boy.
How old is he?
He's 5.
Wow. Rocking and rolling, huh?
Yeah, so he's right there where
Golly.
I'm like, oof, that one burned.
Yeah. I imagine every time there's something new going on. Some of our friends, of course, they've all married and gotten kids. And some of them, I'm Uncle Cole, and it's just so much fun. One of them lived with me for a little bit while their kids were close to my age. So like it was so cool. I could play with them and play with them and play with them. And as soon as there was like a problem or they were crying, it was like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, here you go." Got to put them up.
That is the best part.
It was really cool.
I'm like, I need an adult. Oh,
yeah.
I am the adult.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get more of clinical questions, I think. Okay. So like you were watching me and Axel deal with this technical issue. What are indicators that someone has declining mental health?
Well, the tricky part is knowing somebody's baseline or being aware of their natural idiosyncrasies.
Yeah. Is that the way they always are, or is this offset?
Is it how they play with them? Is it natural for their relationship? And so it's mostly... Sometimes people really start to worry themselves. And I check in with people asking them, are you concerned?
Yeah.
And so if they're bringing it up to me, I already know it's a concern, or otherwise you wouldn't bring it up.
Yeah.
And so I'm just putting more focus on, how do you feel about it, that you're worried about it?
Yeah.
And to get a little bit more information, like how have you been noticing it? How long have you been noticing this? And
so as those indicators arise, they're likely to talk to you about it, right? And say,
if you bring it up gently, people are like, okay, I didn't even know that was an option to talk about whatever topic.
Kind of yelled at somebody today, Cole, you've never yelled at anybody. Why are you? That's kind of a general approach. So then what do you? So what are your? How do you combat that? What do you tell them?
So
breathe in.
That's
breathe
we
deeply.
get to that.
Yeah.
Once I have them sold and they've bought in on therapy, then I start to get a little weird with my hocus pocus.
You said that earlier, hocus pocus. It's and you said what was your cocktail? So, do you, will your doctorate? Will you prescribe drugs?
No, that's the MD part of it.
Yeah.
So I do enough psychopharm and pharmacology that I have all that information.
Yeah.
So as on a PhD level, I know how drugs interact, behavioral meds. I know how they interact, and if someone's like, "Oh, they just put me on this med," I'll know more or less what it's doing to them or should.
Can you or do you recommend a drug?
I've been back and forth, but now my position is some people need medication. Sometimes forever. Sometimes you can learn to manage without it, but if you need it, you need it.
Let's touch on that a little bit. I'm gonna say Eastern medicine guy, right? Like more natural and building immunity, and I try to not speak as much during this COVID-19 stuff because I'll sound like an inconsiderate prick, but like building your immune system, having it is so important. And I feel like anytime you introduce drugs into your system, your body quits producing whatever that drug is giving you, right?
Well, your body really wasn't producing it if you need a drug for it. Right?
Or not producing it well. But I would then look into, and this is part of, let's say I lack X, and X is what's making me depressed or having mental issues. How do you naturally produce X? How does your body naturally produce X without taking a pill? And I know that's a little bit more detailed.
Well, that's always a possibility because it's rare that I bring up medication, and it's usually as like a last intervention, and don't push it. I'm like, have you thought about, or what are your thoughts behind? So I always attempt to go because I'm not the one prescribing it, so we can work together and get through this without meds.
Okay, so is your session helping to produce what wasn't being produced?
We're going to have to go through a lot of trauma.
Something mentally is blocking that.
Absolutely. The meds just kind of help stabilize you a little more so we can get a little more work done.
Yeah.
And
if it's bad enough type thing.
If I'm concerned to bring it up, then, maybe I'm seeing something that.
So let's say, and I don't know too much about it, so I hope this isn't weird, but let's say testosterone. Men take testosterone as they get older. It's a popular thing now. As I've kind of looked into it, I realized that these testosterone clinics, when you take testosterone medication or whatever supplements, your body quits producing testosterone. So then what do you do? So when you get off of it, you have zero testosterone. So you have to be on it the rest of your life. Forgive me if I'm slaughtering this idea. So then I would rather look and find out, how do I start producing testosterone? So through your clinical sessions, though, I can talk about whatever issues not giving me the motivation to do squats, whatever. This is very general.
I would trace it all the way back into how is that impacting you through trauma? Like, how is your trauma coming up in these symptoms?
Yeah.
And so, as if we were to be able to get, the holistic aspect, or psychotherapeutic yoga routine, in addition to, a group, in addition to, just trying to cover all of the things that are happening day to day.
Yeah.
As long as those become stable and you can, go through day to day without any major crisis or, not feeling safe, then we can go back into your trauma from childhood, which is where it all comes from.
Where it all comes from anyway.
Yeah.
What did that meme you sent me this week? We're all suicidal kids telling.
We're suicidal kids telling other suicidal kids that suicide isn't the answer.
Isn't the answer. Yeah, man. Everything gets linked back to childhood, huh? That's so crazy. It's just a time where you're absorbing any and everything. And even in the quote unquote perfect upbringing, you have a quote unquote perfect upbringing, and that in itself can be damaging, to where anything outside that's not perfect is weird and starts to damage you.
And it's just acknowledging.
I air quoted perfect,
yeah, and it's acknowledging what strengths and weaknesses came with your specific style of upbringing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make it better or worse, it's just different. So how do I need, to work with what I was given?
Yeah, like if you saw a dead body when you were like 2 or 5, you're going to have something that reflects in that the rest of your life.
Somewhere.
If you saw a naked girl when you're 2 or 5 or whatever age makes it weird.
If it made an impression of some sort, it's gonna trap it there too.
So a lot of your therapy then, is it me and my spouse are arguing, and we're trying to get through just normal marriage counseling, or are we talking a little bit more serious, a little bit of both?
It's all over the place. From
like you said, one person spouse just tried to commit suicide, the next one are arguing over their favorite television channel or something.
Yeah, that they seem to be arguing about arguing.
Yeah.
So, it's, you have different ends of that. And with my individuals that have heavier cases, high risk, I like to get their families involved. So then, they have additional support coming in and building relationships with them. So eventually I will do couples therapy once they get stable,
ready to
healthier.
Do that. So I was going to say, what is your satisfaction? Like we kind of touched on it earlier, but as the therapist, what is your job well done? I sometimes feel like it's inconclusive at all. As long as you're just getting them back to normal, you can't micromanage somebody's everyday life.
Well, my goal is ultimately for them to not need me anymore.
Yeah.
To maybe have the questions I would ask or in the back of their head, and have them checking in with themselves enough to trust their decisions and trust that they're making the right decisions.
You've taught them what to look for to know when they're healthy and not healthy, and when that unhealthiness gets to a certain level, you need to come back and talk to your therapist type thing. Is that?
It's a check-in process as well. Yeah, I like to teach them to self-value, self-worth, trust yourself.
Yeah.
So that regardless of the decisions you make, you wouldn't change it.
Are most of your clients or people you deal with, are they voluntary?
They all are.
Yeah. No one's
mandatory. No.
I feel like the counseling center has some mandatory stuff.
I've experienced some, but I don't have them in the demographic I work with now.
Okay. Not currently. Mm-hmm. But you would if needed.
And I have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so just make use of, you're here anyway.
So I'm real familiar with a counselor and what a counselor does. Mm-hmm. I say real familiar. I feel like I am. Are you a counselor, or are you a mental? I mean, I'm trying to get, I think I kind of touched on it. Mental health therapist, counselor, physician.
Verbiage. It's all over the place, right?
And see, the reason I ask that question is, I'm a big proponent of particularly in counseling, not Misty, Dr. Diaz, but Misty, my friend, could be my counselor. Axel could be my counselor, my friend, my therapist. If I have a relationship with you that I can feel like I can talk about anything, I don't need the help. Now, I feel like those who keep it bottled up and don't talk to their friends or don't have anybody to talk to, they need that help. So part of that question is to encourage folks to talk to their friends about things. But also, is that a decent argument to where a healthy individual has their tribe that they can talk about some of their traumatic experiences?
And I caution them to remain safe. If it feels like it's too much or risky, don't share.
And when you say too much or risky, you mean like crazy personal stuff, like I was molested when I was a child.
Not everyone knows how to handle that information, nor is it their responsibility to carry that either. Like, if they're not in a place with their own trauma, you're giving them your trauma is like, whoa, what do I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah. And so you responded in a sense that, like, it's like, oh, whoa, what are you telling me, dude? But potentially, if you do have that relationship with one or two people, I notice a lot of guys in the church, they get their life groups and they talk and they'll lay it out. And you're
that's encouraged, because you need other people to go to. You can't go to, start to rely on your therapist to help get you through everything. You encourage, well, who else is on your support?
So in other words, like a scale, you got your friend who you can say, man, she dumped me. And then you got,
you have your friends you can go to about suicide. Your life group. All your friends need to know about it. So
and then you got your therapist that like, okay, this is serious. I got no one to talk to.
And not even that. The therapist is the objective person who you can tell things, I've never told anyone this before, and can normalize it for you to make you realize this isn't so uncommon, and this isn't only happening to you.
And what are you doing? And maybe this is too much. Are you explaining to them why you're thinking this, Cole, because you blah 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 blah, and this is what that means? And I mean, I don't get it. Like, I don't mean this in a negative way, but I mean, I don't get. All it sounds to me is like you're a sounding board, and you're saying that you're just helping somebody think through things. But okay, so that's my next one. What's the treatment? What is the you're healed type thing?
Yeah, and I give
it's kind of unknown, right?
Yeah, it is. I give it up to my clients completely. I'm like, we can go through a variety of ways. If you don't even want to go through the past, we'll work on solutions and change what the rest of your life looks like.
Yeah, going forward.
Don't be surprised if your past comes back. You might have to deal with it then. Yeah. So you can only keep that, away for so long. But we can go through really deep traumatic memories or heavy ones through like a 21st century type of hypnosis. Yeah. We can use just behavioral techniques. We could use I'm like, we can get there any way that you want to.
Yeah.
And so however you want to go through, if it's too heavy, we can back up.
You'll present those options or ideas and then
the more that I get to know them, I'm like, they're a much more visual learner. Maybe they'll understand through this technique more than, just by gauging the person and learning how they think. And
any one session, how long does that typically last?
It's supposed to be 50 minutes. I have no clocks in my office, and I say every session I need them. And then I have like an hourglass, but I never remember to flip it over.
You don't remember?
No, and it's right in front of me.
You're old school.
Yeah, and so it's supposed to be 50 minutes.
So you just meet them there and roll with it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then your session's 50 minutes. How many average sessions you deal with somebody? It's just all relative, isn't it?
Yeah, and I see once a week is pretty average, and then sometimes you go through growth spurts, so you don't need it as often, or you're going through a growth spurt and you need it more often. Yeah. So I've had 2-3 times a week to once every month or so. Okay.
I'm going to start putting this more on you next couple questions, because really I want you to share some of your thoughts on suicide awareness, suicide prevention. The main answer is seems like just call somebody, right? Like, don't do it. The easiest answer is like, don't do it, right? But that's not.
That's a lot easier to
say than do.
Yeah, and it's difficult to get to and to discuss, because not everybody's brain can go there. Yeah, it's. Some people can think about tomorrow and be hopeful that, tomorrow has to be better than today.
Has to be better than today.
And then there are people who, tomorrow's got to get worse than today. Like, I see no way out.
Like for the past X amount of days, it's going down, and if tomorrow is going to be worse than today, why do it, right?
And if you're able to go into that dark place that not everybody can go into, it gets pretty scary, and to get yourself out of that takes practice.
Yeah. It's mental strength.
It's practice.
Yes.
It's real practice.
And I'm sorry, when I say strength, I mean when you practice doing something. So, for example, obviously I'm 37, I'm single. I've had breakups. I've had women I've seen it worked out, and you get down and out over it. And I can recall a specific few years in a row where I had the exact same reaction each time it happened, or I did X or Y or Z to ruin the relationship type thing, right? And so I started recognizing that as a pattern.
Nice.
And changed. So
that's impressive.
Well, I know.
To do that.
Well, at 37, you've had enough experience. It's not that impressive. If I did that at 23 or 24,
you
maybe.
did it on your own.
Sure. And so, and is that kind of what you're thinking about when it's something like, say, strength or practice, recognizing why is my mind going down this path at this particular juncture? Because ultimately it's just, I could argue that right now I could take a deep breath and say, man, that flag has some cool colors on it. Man, that Bob Marley post. I mean, just, you can have a positive attitude and just wait. Right now, in this exact moment, life ain't so bad, right? Just a general approach. But for some reason, my mind's dwelling on life sucks. And
that's where the power comes from, is acknowledging, oh, I'm going into that, oh, life sucks phase. It's about to get dark. It's, going to get dark and dangerous.
You're saying as that's happening, start to recognize it.
Yeah.
So cool. Is that what you talk a little about in your dissertation about indicators? And
that's a lot of the recovery work. First, you have to get in there and kind of get comfortable with what it is, with what suicide is to begin with. Some people don't even like hearing the word, saying the word. So you have to kind of get through all of those layers before you can. It's a delicate topic.
Yeah, I had a family member that kind of threatened us, right, with suicide, and it was crazy. And at that point, it's all hands on deck. She was surrounded by people who loved her, and so we were all just like on it immediately. And you just know people that have done it, and you're like, dude.
And that's what's so
freaking
scary.
Call me, man.
That's what's so terrifying. It's, you may think it's for attention or whatever the obvious, thoughts are, but it happens. It really happens, even if it's accidentally.
Yeah.
So if somebody's even threatening it, it could, people who threaten it accidentally do it too.
Wow. So keep up the good work on that. I appreciate you doing that.
Thanks.
I just want to say I love your tattoos.
Thank you.
Are these like doing for fun? Are some symbolic? Some just whatever? Because I'm a tattoo person, and I got like one or two. But that was one thing I noticed. I think to me, it shows more of a modernity. I'm not a sleeve person, maybe one or two sleeves. I think there's almost a health aspect to it at some point. I feel like, I'm not hold back here, but I love the idea of art, painting yourself.
It's part of that Enneagram being
Oh, yeah?
4. Mm-hmm.
We were touching on that. I found out I was a 2. I don't even know what that means.
You should look into that. It's a real place for growth.
Changed my life. I'm kind of offended you don't think I've grown.
Oh, you have.
I'm kidding.
I just acknowledged all that growth. All by yourself, nailing it.
So when's the last time you got a tattoo?
Oh, it's probably been a good 2 years by now.
Have you thought about doing it again?
No, they hurt.
They hurt.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting some on my butt.
Me too.
Let's go get tattoos on your butt after this.
That's like the last space available. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's it. It's like, all right, go big, go home.
I do have 2 flies tattooed on my butt.
Flies?
Yeah. that's synonymous, right, with butt, stinky butt flies.
Have you seen them?
Has Axel seen them? Here, let me show you.
I believe you.
Okay. I was calling you out.
I believe you.
I wouldn't show you if you would have said yes, just so you know. Well, anything else?
So real quickly, I do want to make it known that suicide is hereditary. It can be known as genetic, and it's contagious. So if it's one person maybe have, fulfilled as a suicide, kind of check people around that are being impacted by it too.
Yeah.
Never undermine somebody who's being able to go there. You may be the only person who reaches out.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very, I'm gonna say the word, conscientious of the whole suicide thing. Mm-hmm. One, again, you just being a human, your mind goes down these rabbit holes sometimes. My father was an orphan, more or less. Mm-hmm. He lived with his cousin, so it would have been my cousin once removed or something like that. And that 2-bed, 1-bathroom house, these old houses in Grand Prairie. Mm-hmm. But, there's 3 or 4 cousins, and him and his brother, and then the older uncle. And anyway, 10, 15 people living in a house. But when he was 8, his father was just a horrible person. We've found out more and more, but he shot my grandmother and shot himself when my dad was 8. And so he immediately became an orphan. Now, it's interesting because, as crazy and he was a horrible, I think he's a racist. I'm not trying to put him down, but he was just one of these guys but back up, he was in World War II. He was a machine gunner. So literally he sat, and when the machine gunners there, back then they had these big like guards in front of them. And it was a 2-person thing. Like one guy would carry like half the gun, and the other guy would carry the other half of the gun, and they'd plop down and put it together and then start firing. And I've been told they were in the Pacific. So in the Pacific, they just hopped on an island and just started just killing people. Literally just. So this guy, yeah. And then not only that, so that was in 44, I guess, when it ended, I think. I don't even know. World War II ended. This happened in 68, I think. So this guy was 20 years back in the States. And remember I was talking about he was just a bad dude? Nowadays he's diagnosed with PTSD. Absolutely. He still may go down that path, right? But at least we're aware, he's getting treatment, and he may be a better person.
It helps you understand how to help this person.
Right. Which is why I want to make sure people talk about suicide and talk about PTSD and talk about all these things, because what was I saying? What we started off saying, just one generation removed from you and I was a completely different world.
Exactly.
And perhaps the one in front of us, the teenagers now. So that's 20 years behind us, right? And then so the 20 years in front of us
impacts like 3 generations back or something. So breaking all the patterns and unhealthy.
Absolutely. So think about the 15-year-olds right now that are coming up, and that's a big difference. And their world is completely different than ours. And so it's kind of cool just seeing how that progression goes.
And understanding that, having some compassion for maybe your parents and your grandparents who were awful. Yeah,
they were awful, but they didn't know better,
They
and
did the best they could with
what they had. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Doesn't make it okay.
No, by any means.
It's not.
But they're people, just like you and I.
Exactly.
And they've had their experiences, just like.
Yeah. And so we're getting better the more we learn.
Yeah. I try to get better, but.
You are.
Oh, that's sweet. Great. You're complimenting. Very complimentary today. Thank you very much. Well, there's no sense in dragging this out. I feel like we've touched on some pretty good stuff. I'm real happy to do it. I want you to consider doing it again.
Yeah.
And the reason is I think it's just important for this topic to be addressed and touched on, and
absolutely.
Particularly if like you get close to with your dissertation done and you really kind of want to expand on it and do stuff like that.
I'm gonna take you up on that for sure.
Well, and this is set up. So I've got this room set up here. I record twice a week for an hour. So it's just sitting here. So literally I would record all the time. I just don't want to have all this material and not release it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I don't want to have release 20 episodes in 1 week and then not have anything. So, but at this point, at any time, I would even ask that you consider bringing other professionals with you that are doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
We got 4 or 5 mics here.
And we specialize in different demographics, different
approaches,
topics. So we all have our own niche.
I can imagine a scenario, with 2 or 3 different niches, and you guys having like powwow, and I'll be in Axel's position. You guys kind of trying to disperse information to the mental health community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever. Just keep it open.
People I work with would love it.
Jump on it. Okay. Misty, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Anytime.
All right. See you.
Thanks. Bye.